Gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Escobar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to also join my colleagues, Mr. Dunn, in expressing my heartfelt sympathies and condolences for the loss of your son. Sheriff Daniels, thank you for your service to your community and to our country. And again, Judge Samaniego, I'm so grateful for your compassionate and strategic leadership and your partnership with the federal government. Really appreciate your testimony here as well. You know, for anyone who really, truly wants to understand what's happening at the border and to depoliticize this, we've got to take a step back and acknowledge that what we have been seeing is an historic refugee crisis impacting our Western Hemisphere. And it started in 2014 as we began seeing record numbers of unaccompanied minors, and it has continued through the years. When folks credit Donald Trump for limiting migration, I want you to look at what the data shows, which is the only time we saw a drop during the Trump administration was in the weeks after the country and the world shut down because of COVID. And the apprehensions began increasing again before the November general election in 2020. So let's operate in truth and facts, or we won't be able to achieve any solutions together. And I'll tell you, there's no one who wants a safe, secure, well-managed border than those of us who live and work on the border, than those of us who raise our children on the border, those of us who have pledged our service to the border. So to my Republican colleagues, I will work with anyone who wants to achieve what I hope we all want to achieve. And so how do we do that? How do we solve this challenge? I'll tell you how we don't do it. We don't keep doing more and more of the same. The definition of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity. What have we been doing for decades in America? We've been addressing immigration as a border-only issue, and that is an expensive failure. So how do we solve this? Number one, Congress needs to open up legal pathways. We haven't done that in decades. For many of these migrants, there is no line for them to get into. There's no right way for them to use, except for asylum, which is legal. We should also recognize that our country needs immigrants. I don't know about you all, but every CEO I talk to says we need a labor force. I have had CEOs from different parts of the country tell me, can we have some of those asylum seekers in our community? Because we can't get anybody to go to work. So we need to recognize how advantageous immigration is for America. We also need to modernize our processing and include a federal civilian workforce so that, Judge, you don't have to step in and fill in where the federal government has failed. Most importantly, we can depoliticize this work and work for real solutions. So if we want to end the scourge of fentanyl, I sure wish my Republican colleagues would have voted for the bipartisan infrastructure law, which funds technology at our ports. If you want to help defeat the cartels, fund the president's budget as he applies historic resources to do this. If you want to erode the power of the cartels, advocate to end Title 42. And if you want to secure the border, I sure wish you would have voted for historic funding for the Department of Homeland Security in December. But every member of the Republican Party, every colleague actually on this panel who is a Republican voted against that funding. And in fact, in December, President Biden asked for $5 billion for the Department of Homeland Security. Republicans cut that in half and then voted against it. Judge, in that funding was money for communities like ours, for governments like yours that help partner with us. If the Republicans would have had their way, and if that funding wouldn't have made it to you to help, who or what agency would have been hurt the most?
Oh my goodness, just a fact of not having the funding, obviously everybody gets hurt because now NGOs have to step in without any money. Everything gets shifted away from what they need to do. I can tell you FEMA helping us really took that was such an incredible opportunity for us to be able to shelter, to process, to do the things that we wanted to do in a very organized manner.
And when you can't help, what agency has to pick up the burden? What federal
Well-
law enforcement agency?
Well, the Border Patrol.
That's right.
Border Patrol. They feel, that's why we have such a great relationship, because they know that if we weren't doing our job with the community, they would have to have, there's 1,200, they have 1,200 beds available. Sometimes they got as much as 5,500. When we help them, the flow comes through, they're feeling good about it, and we take all that pressure away from the federal government.
Thank you, Judge. My time has expired. I yield back.
Right now.